Hey Frank, how you doing? Who we
Good.
got?
Hey, David. Hi, Kallum. Hey, Connor.
Hi, Frank. Good to see you.
Frank, how are you, buddy?
We've
Good,
got
man.
Julia, we've got Patrick, we've got Debbie, we've got Di, we've got Heather. Who else we got here? Lynn Halliwell, Linda Weatherly, still not on the sofa. We've got Caroline Sillett. Hi, Caroline. Great to see you. Nanda, Faye. I can't see everybody, obviously. Dale and Lusania out in Wales. We've got Grant Foster out in Spain. We've got Chris Hallett. We've got Shelley. We've got a number of people coming in. Oh, yeah, now it's just suddenly gone crazy with lots of people. Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan. Roger. Hi, Roger. Yeah, so still some people are coming in because we had about 80 or so people registered. Salia, hello.
Hi, Sam.
So yeah, I'm very excited about this because this is the obviously I've been a guest on Cal and Connor's own podcast, all those kind of things, whether we call it that, and I wanted to reciprocate. That looks like no, it's okay. I was just looking at other people. David Reed. Hi, David. Good to see you. Yeah, we got some lots of news people. So anyway, so I wanted to reciprocate with this and talk about selling because selling kind of like got the kind of like the bad name in a way, and you know, if you're in business, the most important thing, business skill, is selling, because it doesn't matter how good your product or service is, if you can't sell it, then you don't have a business. And the reason I know Conor and Cal is because they were the two people behind the Tad James company in Australia and also in the US. As many of you know, Tad was a very, very dear and close friend of mine, mentor of mine, my original trainer in NLP, and I worked alongside Tad for a long time. And, you know, we remained friends and in communication up to the point of his passing away. And then, you know, I met Cal and Conor because they contacted me, and we've become friends as well, and we're doing a lot of stuff together. So I wanted to really introduce all of you to them, so that you can learn from their wisdom, for want of a better word, and their skills around specifically selling training, coaching, and therapy, and selling to that kind of market. And I wanted to open the floor really to a couple of ideas that I got before we get into the detail of it, which was one is your beliefs as a salesperson, whether you identify yourself as being a salesperson, firstly, and because if you're in business, you've got to be in sales. So if you've got a limiting belief about being a salesperson, get over it. The importance about selling, but also from a perceptions projection point of view, how you are as a customer. Because I love spending money. I love being sold to well. Because, and I can see, David, you're nodding there. And I think these are really important things about how we are as a customer before we start out as what we're going to do as a salesperson. So that's my opening gambit, Conor and Cal. What are your ideas on that?
Well, good evening, good morning, everyone. I'm Conor. I know some of you. Great to see you here. Cal, want to say good day?
Yeah, I was gonna. You're the perfect person to answer this question, so I was just gonna shut my mouth because I feel. Hi everyone, I'm Kallum Hock. But I feel like I was the lucky guy to watch the magician on stage doing his magic. When I first came on board with the Tad James company, you had already done a lot of the heavy lifting for me in being able to, I guess, make all the mistakes and see what worked and what didn't in the sales capacity there. So I was going to let the master take the stage and open this question that David shared, because for me, I was just the person that was decoding what the magician was doing on stage. Conor was very much the person that was able to produce these incredible results. I guess much like Bandler was in the NLP field, he was doing these things that looked remarkable from the audience. And then, Grindler turned that into a model that was able to be taught to other people. And so I'm going to sit back for this first part and let you go for it, Conor, and then I'll jump in to remind you of things as we go along.
Yeah, I appreciate that, David. I love that whole concept, because like most people, when I first started out in sales, I thought it was how do I get someone to buy, and that was what do I have to say, what do I have to do, how do I get them to, what sort of linguistical jujitsu do I need to do in order to get them to buy. And my thinking was wrong, and it wasn't wrong for a long period of time, because I learned NLP after 6 months of starting my sales career. My background was actually hospitality and tourism, and I studied because I wanted to own hotels, I wanted to own property, I wanted to travel the world, etc. And I did get to do that in my early years. But when I started to do, take a breath, sales, I realized that it's a different kettle of fish. It's my old, and if for anyone who knows Claire Graves' values,
Yeah.
does everyone here know Claire Graves' values? If you do, and you're familiar with Claire Graves' values, can you put a C for Claire in the chat, please? So because I don't want to explain something using terminology that a handful of people would understand. I see lots of C's there. Sea of C's. Good. Thank you. All right, brilliant. So I was traditional. I grew up in New Zealand, and New Zealand, my teenage years were New Zealand, and New Zealand has a big rugby culture, and it's a bit of almost a VL3 type of environment. And I you know, as a teenager, you're in it, you just sort of evolve into it. But something happened, and I started to want to do what was right. It was really strange. And I got into hospitality because if I followed the book, hospitality, by the way, unless you're in business development, if you're an employee in hospitality, it's very values level 4. There's a standard operating procedure for everything. And I studied it and I thrived at it. And I really evolved from a good 3. I was a good 3 into a good 4. But after a while, I was in hospitality for about 4 or 5 years, and I traveled the world, and I was working on a reception desk, and this is when the penny dropped. And I was working in London, and 9/11 happened. So, 2001, in obviously September. I remember that date because the hotel swelled with customers coming back because the planes were cancelled. Anyway, I had only been on that reception desk for about 4 months, and people who were there for 2 years, I knew were getting paid more than me, even though I was checking in more people. I was getting higher customer satisfaction. I was put more effort into my grooming than they did, yet I knew they were getting paid more than me. So in my head, I was like, this, I want to get paid on and rewarded for my effort and my results. And I was about 20, 22, 23 at that time. And that's when the penny started to drop. But here's the but. When I got into sales, before I got into sales, I thought sales was some cheesy guy with a suit with big shoulder pads, slick back hair, and just a smooth talker and swindling people. And I was in massive conflict from a values level 4 to 5. I wanted 5, but I was in conflict because I wasn't too sure what behavior I needed to produce, because in my head it was in conflict with the behavior that I didn't want to produce. So fast forward, moved to Sydney, started working with Tad James when I was 24 in 2004, and yeah, 45 in about a week. Actually, David, I think we share a birthday a day or so apart. I'm the 7th of January. When are you?
Oh, mine's the 6th.
6. Okay, so day
So
before mine.
you're between me and Elvis Presley and David Bowie.
I didn't know David was there. Okay, a couple Davids. Um, so I learned how to communicate. So sales is no more than communication. I learned how to communicate, and I learned how to use my enthusiasm for helping someone want to do better with their life, because my initial sales in selling NLP and coaching was just pure enthusiasm. Fire hose down the phone. By then it was in those times it was only over the phone. Rarely
Yep.
would someone turn up to the office for a coffee, but it was absolutely there and then when I learned how to actually communicate, and I realized, hang on, sales is no more than communication, and sales is no more than communication, and sales is no more than change in someone's head. So then, after learning NLP, I thought, because you look at perception as projection, as we all know, I think we all know what perception as projection is. I looked at myself and I went, what sort of behaviors should I have as a customer, as a purchaser, in order to free up that energy? And I used to be really stingy with my money. I used to
Right.
be careful and stingy. Now I'm still okay to negotiate. I'm going to negotiate, absolutely. But when I pay, and I'm very happy to pay, and that energy flows. And when I started to change that within myself, it became less of a barrier for asking for money from other people, because I had no issues with being okay to part with it when I saw value. So when I made sure that someone else saw value, I had no issues with asking from it, or asking for money from them for the service that they're about to embark on. So that's a long-winded way to answer your question, David. So I'm all for that. And one of our favorite sayings, one of our favorite beliefs is that people love to buy. They absolutely love to buy. why do I even think about that? Because I love to buy. As you said, David, you love to spend money. I love to buy. I'm a salesperson's dream because I'll buy.
Me too.
And it's like as soon as they smile at me and they say something in a nice way, I'm like, okay, well, I almost sell myself into it. And I think that's been part of the success that I've had in the sales realm is that fluidity of money and being okay to ask for it, or be first and foremost perception objection for myself, being okay to part with it. Therefore, it's okay in order to ask for it.
I got this. It would be about 1991. It's before I met Tad. And I was running a company that did firewalk seminars called Up International, Unlimited Potential International.
Nice.
And I got to bizarrely spend the afternoon with one of my other heroes, Stuart Wilde. We went for tea at Brown's Hotel in Piccadilly because the Ritz wouldn't let us in because I wasn't wearing a tie and Stuart didn't have a jacket. I always remember after we'd had tea, Stuart said, "I'm going out tonight. I need to get a new shirt." And we went into this shop, and it was a very expensive shop. It's in Mayfair, and he bought an evening shirt, and he said, "Oh, I'll have those. I need some cufflinks as well." And never asked the price. That was just watching that was just such a incredible thing for me, because I'd got a similar thing to you. I remember one Christmas, my mum asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and I said I wanted a trouser press. And she said, "Why do you want a trouser press? Only salespeople have trouser presses." As if it was like the biggest insult ever. So I totally agree with you on all of that. It's
this is actually one of the biggest. We talked about the three biggest mistakes the coaches and trainers tend to make at this time of year that leaves them on the back foot come January, February. Prevents you from maintaining the momentum over Christmas, prevents you from having that inertia to keep you having success through the early months of the year. And that is very much around the identity of being a salesperson and being able to accept that and your relationship with that. We all have a relationship as a buyer and a relationship as a customer where we are able to give that energy for exchange of something that we see of value. And the same needs to be addressed when looking at being a salesperson and being willing to give and provide value, and the relationship that you have with that experience and that exchange as well. We did say in the emails and the post that there are three mistakes. There are four, but we're only going to share three tonight, guys, just for the NLP people in there. Oh, I forget. So yeah, I think, Conor, it'd be great to hear a little bit more about what you had to say around people loving to buy and also their identity as a salesperson and the shift that you have to make psychologically in your mind around your beliefs, around your values, around your attitudes. Because I know that, there's several of those things that we cover during our trainings and the workshops that we run to make sure that even before people get on the phone or even before they even think about having a sales conversation or doing any type of communication, that they have their heads in the right place first and foremost.
Can I just step in here, Cal? Thanks for that. Tad actually shared with me a story. He was sharing an office with a guy, and this guy sold solid gold golf putters. And he did it all through telephone sales, right? This is a thing that people would have on their desk. And there was one day that Tad went into the office and he put his head, and the sales guy, the guy who's selling the solid gold golf putters, put his head on the desk and didn't raise his head for 3 hours. And after 3 hours, then he got on the phone and started selling. But at the end of the day, Tad said to this guy, "What was going on this morning? I've never seen you do that before." And the guy said, "Well, when I came in, I couldn't for the life of me understand why anybody would want to buy a solid gold golf putter. So there's no point me picking up the phone. I had to get my head sorted out first." And my thing, around this is it's important that you love what you sell. Mm-hmm. To the extent that if somebody says no, they're crazy. So Conor, over to you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that story, David. I think it's bang on perfect. And it brings me to one of my favorite quotes, which is from Abraham Lincoln. And he said, "Give me 6 hours to cut down a tree and I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe."
Yeah.
And that resonated with me a lot because over 21 years, gosh, I've spoken to thousands, like literally thousands of trainers and coaches, most of which have had a job before they became a trainer or a coach. And they had no idea how to actually sell their services. And because I was able to practice with thousands of entrepreneurs, coaches, and trainers, I got very good at getting them to see the value first and foremost for themselves.
Yes.
And for them to tap into that belief that they have about their product or service, like their NLP trainings, for example, and share with them the insights and why it is so valuable. And you could just see their whole face change. And when I finished up with Tad James and Kallum and I started to work together as Connect Coaching, the first thing Cal did was, "I've got to unpack what's going on up here because your closing ratio in this field is the high. It's ridiculous. People who you haven't spoken with for 10 years ring you back and they'll spend $20,000 on a course, and all you've done is talk to them about your family and the weather in Sydney, and they've bought. And how on earth? How does that happen? And you can get a brand new Google or Facebook lead and have that person invest in a $4,000 NLP practitioner training, and you spent half an hour to an hour on the phone with them. How does it even happen? So, and I didn't even know. But there are a few things that I guess we narrowed it down to, and it's for those of you. There's a few people here who have learned this from me, and that is you got to get your value first and foremost. Your values. Anyone who's NLP trained, you understand how important values are within your life. They motivate you without you needing to think about being motivated, whether it's towards or away from. But they will have you draw and go towards something or away from something without you even needing to try. So first and foremost, you have to have, what are your values in sales? Thankfully, I've done it for 21 years. I'm clear on my values. So one of the easiest things that I can do and that Cal and I do is to share that with others, what your values are. Because from there, that's like the starting point. Then it's upstream. If your values are in conflict with what you want to do, it makes it very hard to be congruent about what you're selling and how you're doing it. And secondly, the values, as we all know, beliefs stem off our values. So we have, a little circle with a V and little lines with little circles outside of that V are Bs, which are your beliefs.
Yep.
So having a key set of beliefs in sales. And by the way, these beliefs, yes, we're using them in the context of sales, but it's about business. It's about probably life. If we really wanted to chunk it up, your beliefs have to support those values. And a couple of my favorite beliefs are, and I said it before, is that people love to buy. That's a belief that I have. And when I go into whoever, some of you here have bought from me, anyone who buys from me, I make it an enjoyable process. I make it fun because I know they're going to buy. I know that people are going to invest or spend their money on something. I can look up Instagram and see everything that people spend their money on: bags, shops, dog collars, cars, holidays, new kitchens, new backsplash for their kitchens, whatever, new taps. They're gonna spend their money. So people love to buy. But what do they hate? They hate being sold to. People love to buy. They hate being sold to. And I think that sort of, aligns very nice with what you said before, David, about you love buying from a good salesperson.
Yep.
But you would hate to be sold to by a bad salesperson.
Yep.
Listen to the language. NLP trained people, listen to the language. If I said to you, hey, I bought a car, you would say, oh, what sort of car did you buy? If I said to you, someone sold me a car, same outcome, different use of language, you would say, what's wrong with that car if someone had to sell it to you? So it's interesting what that even does using our language. Just use same outcome, different language.
Yeah, totally. It's around allowing people to buy what they want rather than selling to them essentially what they don't want. And it's a mindset shift, and that's all it takes.
And if you believe in what you do so much, and you should, by the way, everyone in here should love what you do and love talking about what you do. If someone, even if they've come in inquiring about NLP trainings or coaching courses or hypnosis courses, your belief and your conviction in your words, what happens in anchoring? What happens in anchoring if you're in rapport with someone and you get into a state? What happens to the client that you're in rapport with? What happens there? The client gets in the same state. So if you can build rapport with a prospect and get plugged into why they should do what you are selling and get them to look in the future positively about doing it, the presupposition is that they've bought. If you're excited about that, guess who's also going to be excited? The person who's about to invest $10,000 in your next program. And it's a lot easier to ask for money from someone who is excited about doing something with you than someone who you've had to literally sling mud at the wall and hope that some of it sticks.
Right.
There's actually a little subtle, very subtle thing that I'm hoping some of the NLP trained people are picking up about Conor right now. And it's a subtle thing that is a skill. It's something that I know that he focuses very hard on when he's doing anything, whether it be sales or whether it be anything to do with business. And that is certainty. We talked a little bit before about believing in what you're selling and seeing value in what you're selling and loving what you're selling, but that all requires certainty and congruence. And that is something that, even before bringing in the rapport and the energy, I see when I was watching Conor in the office, would be that he had 100% certainty and congruence that person was not only going to buy, but we had the best product in the world, and that these people were going to get the most amount of value if they chose to come on board with us. So that's another little secret that Conor doesn't always. It's so second nature to Conor. It's so unconscious to him. But it's something that's a very important part to the success that he's had in selling coaching and training packages.
People are David?
No, it's okay. I was just remembering the first time I met Tad. And Sally was there. So I was working for a company, or working with a company in Weybridge, and I met Tad, and immediately clicked, and I just went, right. I need to. it's really important for me to do all these trainings. I didn't have the money. And because I'd made, and this is the certainty thing that you're talking about, Cal, there, I was so certain that I was going to get a massive return on this investment that I did absolutely everything I could do to find the money to make the money, because I was excited. And I think that's a really important thing for people to have as a business person, is, you know, when you love what you do and you totally know that the other person is going to get a return on the investment, then it's about allowing the person to buy.
And if you're ever uncertain, and if you're ever finding yourself with doubts, from a perceptionist projection point of view, and this is something, again, that Conor and I do all the time in our private conversations on Zoom, is if there's any level of uncertainty that we have, if there's any doubts that creep in, if there's even any objections that we're handling that seem out of the blue and unusual, we'll first of all go and check what is that's uncertain in ourselves that we need to fix and change the perception of.
Yeah. Conor, you were going to say something before I interrupted you.
Yeah, I was listening to Kallum on the perceptions projection. Kallum only told half the story. Specifically in our business, if we feel, and this may be one of the points we wanted to discuss today, and that is, even to the point where if we feel as though there's a bottleneck of energy in our business. If you've been in business, you sort of understand what that means. A bottleneck of energy means you have a lot of low-hanging fruit, or you have people who have said that they're going to be buying from you, but they sort of just don't, and they take their time. And it feels like, and the expression is, what's that expression? Trying to get blood from a stone. I think that's the expression. When it feels like you're clutching at straws. The first thing we do, and by the way, I've trained and worked with hundreds of sales professionals, and the best, and I've trained thousands of trainers and coaches, and the ones who are always successful are the ones that take ownership on where they are. Those that don't blame the customer. They blame Christmas. They blame New Year's. They blame insert biggest reason of the day. That's
Economy.
who they blame. Pardon me? That they blame what?
Economy.
They blame the economy.
Yeah.
But this is the belief, David. There are people right now, people talk about recession. There are people who are making more money in a recession than they've ever made their entire life. And there are people during good times when they're making the least amount of money they've ever made in their life. And if you are a magnet for those who you create around you, and I like talking to an NLP audience because you understand this. And you are, by the way, a magnet for creating those people around you, because you have something called a reticular activator system. And your ass is always scanning the audience in front of you, or whatever it is, in order to pick up what your beliefs and focus are focusing on, and what coordinates you're giving yourself. So Kallum and I always look within ourselves first. So because perception is projection. If I'm projecting that people, or if I'm feeling that people are being hesitant with investing, I need to look at myself. Where am I holding back? What have I said yes to that I'm not committing to yet? And Cal and I will discuss this, and we'll actually have and sometimes we do it in a group format, and we will nail it. And when we clear that energy, it's like the analogy I used to use, in the old fair games, in fair games, I don't know what sort of language is that, but like the Easter shows and things like that, there were these big machines, or not really big, but they were big when I was a kid, and you would put coins in them, and the coin would drop, and there's like an arm thing, and it pushes the money. It does, yeah. You put a penny in, put a quarter in, whatever the currency, you put it in, and then it's like there's a whole heap of coins on a ledge that they're about to drop, and you keep you put another one in. In business, how often does it feel like a ledge of pennies or a ledge of 10-cent pieces about to drop. And energetically, that's how it feels like in your business sometimes. And the first thing we do is check with ourselves and see where we are doing that. And when we do that, it's almost like a miracle. We put that magic coin in the machine, and then bingo, they all start dropping. But
I
that
love
doesn't
that.
happen until we work it out ourselves first.
Yeah, and you've got to put the penny in the slot.
You have to do the work. You have to do the action. Yes. You have to do the action. Sitting,
And
meditating.
if you believe that people don't buy at Christmas time or even New Year's or even January, because I've heard it for every month of the year. This is not a good time for people to be buying, and this is not a good economy for people to be buying, so on and so forth. If you start to believe that, you won't even get on the phone. That you won't believe after all the years that Conor and I spent together with the teams that we worked directly and indirectly with that were salespeople. The interesting thing for me was just to see how many reasons people would come up with for not getting on the phone. And Christmas being a bad time, New Year's, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, whatever, being bad times just becomes another reason not to get on the phone.
Summer holidays.
Yeah.
I mean, just so many things.
Well, if you don't believe that someone's going to say yes, why would you pick up the phone? Why would you build a sandcastle knowing that the tide line's about to take it away? You wouldn't do it. So it's like still building a sandcastle in the tide line, but it's now made of cement. And that tide is not going to take it away. That's the difference of the belief that you have before you pick up the phone.
I don't know if I've shared this with you, but I started out training life insurance salespeople, NLP. That's really what I was doing. That was real, cutting edge stuff.
Yeah.
No salary, all commission, etc. And I came across this branch manager, and he shared this with me. He would go out to his sales guys and say, right, I've got these really hot leads. These people want to buy a pension, life insurance, whatever it is, but they're so hot that you're going to have to pay me for them. Who wants to buy these leads? And these sales guys would go, I'll buy 10, I'll buy 20, whatever, with their own money. And then they would call these people up and they'd close them. But what the branch manager shared with me was he picked the names at random out of the phone book. But because the salespeople believed these were hot leads, that's how the customer behaved.
Yeah.
And every few months he'd go out and say, okay, I've got a number of other hot leads. Who wants to buy them? And basically, he didn't take the cash. What he did was he kept the money, and then he did paid for a Christmas party.
Yeah.
But because people didn't know that he was just picking these things out the yellow pages or whatever it was, they acted as if.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the key thing.
It's bang on. It reminds me of that metaphor with the teacher who had a class, and the teacher was told that they're all high-level genius students.
Yeah.
And the teacher taught them as if they were. And then there was another teacher who was told that these students were, low-level students, and they got low-level marks, even though they weren't necessarily low-level students. I don't know the name of the study. I've just heard it being told many, many times. And that rings true. That rings true.
Yeah, it was in California. So what's the next thing out of the?
Well, the next one is that because of those beliefs and because of those attitudes and I guess in turn, the lack of skills, at having the identity as a salesperson. They also, one of the other mistakes that they make this time of year is they fail to engage with their current clients. And because of that, there's a tendency sometimes to need new leads, fresh leads, hot leads. And people often forget about their current students or their prior students or the clients or coaching clients that they've been working with maybe 5 years ago or 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And it's actually a great starting place when you want to get the wheels turning again, to talk to people who you've had great successes with. In fact, one of the other little tricks that Conor would do when, like in the story that you were talking about with the gold-plated putters, when the guy had his head on the table, when Conor metaphorically had his head on the table, he would never do that, but metaphorically he had his head on the table. If maybe one of his calls didn't go the way that he wanted to, he would make sure that he would go and get himself in the right state, into a powerful, positive state. And one of the ways that he used to do that, and this is why I think engaging with current or prior clients is so important. One of the ways that he would get back into that powerful, positive state is that he would go and call people whose lives he'd transformed by them going through the trainings, by them going through the coaching programs. And just by having that 10-minute conversation, 15-minute conversation, 20-minute conversation, it lit him back up. His neurological pathways got re-energized and lit back up, and he was able to reconnect to that state that makes him in flow, totally powerful, totally positive, feeling like he can have it all. And that allowed him then the entry point back into those conversations with new people or other people on the phone. So I'd love to hear you riff on that a little bit too, Conor.
Well, 100%. I mean, sales in and of itself is not just sales. Sales is a whole, and what David said at the beginning, unless you know how to sell, your business goes nowhere. So if you're a trainer, you're a coach, you're a therapist, sales is, after you learn your craft, sales is the next skill that you need to learn.
Yep.
Because you could have the best skills to transform someone's life, but if no one buys from you, then you're not able to A, provide a business for yourself, but B, probably do what you set out to do, which is transform some lives, make a difference in the world. So unless you can communicate in a way that makes people feel like they want to buy from you, really, I took it on myself as I'm not serving them. I came from hospitality. Hospitality is a big service industry. How do I serve someone in hospitality? I make sure that their sparkling water is filled up on their table. I make sure in Le Méridien in Piccadilly Circus, I would literally walk people. I would walk guests to their room. I also got a tip, but I did it as often as I possibly could because I wanted to go over and above for the service. So I knew, I took pride in what I did. I knew I was doing top of the line service with everything that I did. And I worked hard at that. Sales is exactly the same with your business, unless you must, no ifs or buts, you must learn how to sell. The reason why Tad was who he was in the world was he could build value in what he did. And I had the privilege of sitting there for nearly 20 years, watching him do it over and over and over and over again. He believed 100% in the trainings that he delivered, but also he learned how to sell. He learned how to position what he had in the mind of the buyer in a way that had them light up themselves and go, this is the thing that's going to help me get to my goals quicker, for example. And it absolutely did. And when I would see that happen and I would see the results of what people would get, that's when the belief and the certainty came in. So what is sales? Sales it's communication skills. It's persuasion. It builds your confidence. Problem-solving skills, networking skills, professional development,
Storytelling.
storytelling. It is everything you need within your business. Every single skill set you use within your business, I could argue, stems apart from accounts. Accounts, it could be its own thing, but everything else stems from
Overhead.
sales. Pardon me. Hey,
Accounts is a necessary overhead, but it
it's a necessary skill.
doesn't
but
create anything.
it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if you're good at accounts if there's no one buying from you. There's no point in having accounts. So sales is the dawn of your business. It's the before you even spend any money on marketing, you got to learn how to sell. Because all the marketer will do, and I love marketing, by the way, we market, you have to market, I get that, but you have to learn. It's not chicken or the egg conversation. What it is 100, it's not the cart before the horse. It is 100%. You have to do sales first, because unless you know how to articulate and communicate the value of what you do, and you light up when you talk about it, then the marketer will say, yes, David, I'm going to market your business. What we're going to do for the first couple of weeks is we're going to try this and see and get feedback on that and see what the algorithms do. And then if it doesn't work, they're going to go, okay, what we're going to do here, we're going to change the images, and I'm going to change this and see if the algorithms, and see if we can put it in front of more people who are going to buy what you're selling. If you just say, hey, this is how they buy and this is what they buy, then you're going to fast track about 6 months worth of advertising costs, 6 months worth of marketing business or marketing company retainer. You're going to fast track that. The amount of time and money you will save learning how to sell yourself, and the amount of money you'll make because you're able to do it effectively, it's not even a question. If you should, sorry, I feel like I'm getting, I'm on my speaker's box.
It's good. It's good because you're right. And it's big right now. Everybody's selling funnels. They're selling marketing agencies. They're selling landing pages and the latest, tricks and gimmicks in marketing. And they say that you don't need sales. And I find that funny, because the reason why I find it funny is because the people that are selling you these programs to learn how to do landing pages, to learn how to do funnels, they're some of the best salespeople in the world. So they lead with sales, whether you realize it or not. I think just to get you to riff a little bit more on the one of the mistakes, which is that engaging with current clients and understanding how much potential you already have with people who are already in your existing network, that you can get your message out, start communicating it in the effective ways, and effectively practicing your new talk track so that you're armed and ready when it comes to talking to fresh, cold, warm, or hot leads, and how that can actually produce a lot of momentum in the start of the year, Conor.
When we used to run the big trainings, as you know, Cal, and there was over 100 students at some of them, and we had 30 or 40 coaching assistants. It was a big training, and we had the first thing that we needed to do was teach the coaching assistants how to have a conversation with someone about NLP, because many had not yet had a lot of conversations with prospects. And if they did, then they were still learning. One of the best ways to refine your talk tracks. And what is a talk track? Talk track is just how you talk about your product or service. Literally, it's just how you talk about it. A frame, your talk track. You will have and create the best talk tracks when you're talking to someone who wants to hear from you. So if all you're doing is getting no's on the phone, oh, no. And by the way, this can happen and will happen if you're in sales and you ring enough people. You're going to get those days, and it happens. But what is it that keeps you going? That could be a whole training in and of itself. But if you can pick up the phone when you've had a few no's and talk to people who have bought from you, forever clients, Kallum and I call them forever clients, people who have already received value from you, you pick up don't text them, don't have an engaging text message. What you have noticed in society now is people are becoming afraid of actually ringing people. There's nothing wrong with texting. Texting is great. Texting is a very effective way in order to start engaging on a conversation. So there is absolutely a place for texting. But the conversation you're having whilst you're texting has originally stemmed from the phone calls that people would have with their leads and their prospects early on. And when you have an offer and you want to refine your offer, talk to someone who wants to hear from you, because the conversation will flow. And why that's important is because I can easily have a half an hour conversation and I'll verbalize things that I've never verbalized before. And then that gets locked in. Now that's a new way I get to explain it to my next prospects. If all I'm doing is having 2-minute conversations with people and they hang up on me, then it's very hard for me to really stretch my legs, my verbal legs, with a deep conversation about why the NLP master practitioner or trainer's training is the most effective and valuable course that they'll ever do in their life. So coming back to what Cal said, use this opportunity right now to ring anyone who has bought from you. Anyone who has bought from you. Use this opportunity to ring them right now and ask them how their year has been. Ask them how life has been since whatever they did with you. Ask them what their plans are for 2025. And if it leads to a sales call, amazing. If it doesn't, and you feel like it's going to be pushed and you'll lose rapport, don't push it into a sales call. But what you will do is you will set it up for a sales call shortly afterwards. But you're reigniting that rapport and you're building that deep rapport that you've had with them and why they bought from you in the first place. And you do that with 10 people, then you're filling up your pipeline for January and February, because people love to buy. They love to buy. So ring them, get your flow talk track happening, and you'll find that your wind in your sales will increase and your pipeline will start to increase, because you'll be saying, hey, David, I really enjoyed this conversation. Do you mind if I just touch base with you again in a couple of weeks to see how things are coming along? David's going to say yes. We hang up the phone. David's going to say, gosh, Connor's a great guy. Not only is he ringing me and he's not trying to sell to me, he's ringing me and he's genuinely interested in what I'm doing. And you should be, by the way. And this is one, when the leads weren't coming in. And by the way, during COVID, I mean, for many, doesn't matter, COVID, whatever, any sort of time in the year when leads are not coming in, you know what we would always do? We would ring up all of our past leads and mostly our past buyers, because there's a high chance that they would either buy again or refer people and would pick up referrals.
I mean, this is where I think the more esoteric side of
sales I like that.
comes in, is that sales won't come in if you're not putting energy out. Kind of what you've just talked about is that you're putting energy out. And then, you know, it is like the what we had at the fairground thing, the shove a penny. You keep putting the pennies in and nothing happens. Yeah. And then suddenly, I love that analogy. I've never thought about it before. And then suddenly, boom,
yes,
all these pennies drop out. But if you're not putting energy out, don't expect energy to come in. So I love that as far as, like, you know, get on the phone and also not texting. Get on the phone, have real conversations with people, because that's putting the energy, that's putting the mana out.
Yes. Yes.
Love that.
I learned because I hired some amazing salespeople and I learned from them. And one in particular is a Irish lady called Rosie, who was
Signed me up, by the way.
What's that, Cal?
He signed me up. That's who signed me up.
Cal's here because Rosie signed him up. And Cal was happy to buy it, and Rosie made the entire process fun.
I bought a lot more than I thought I was going to as well.
Because I really saw how Rosie would spend 15 minutes Rosie could spend half an hour without even talking about a sale. And then it would move into the selling. And I watched her do this and I was like, this is incredible. And Rosie wasn't selling $200 weekend courses. Rosie was selling $20,000 packages. And I watched her do this. And one thing that I really, really learned was her 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 grit. I love resilience and I love grit. And if you're going to strengthen two muscles in your life, forget business, your life. If you can strengthen resilience, and what is resilience? Resilience is your ability to bounce back after a setback.
Yep.
If you can strengthen your resilience muscle, which is your ability to bounce back after a setback, you will go further than you ever thought. The second muscle is grit. Now, grit is long-term perseverance towards a goal. So if you want to look at it in a system, in a mechanism, grit is the overarching whatever it is that takes you and keeps you going towards your goal. Resilience is a slice of grit, I guess, in the sense that how quickly you bounce back from setbacks. In sales and in business growth, you get setbacks all the time. Cal and I get setbacks all the time. All the time. But what do we do about it? And
Yep.
how do we keep going? I saw Rosie get knocked back, knocked back, knocked back, knocked back, and she would always get up one more time. And she broke every single record. She forged forever clients, and it really, really showed the value of belief within what you're selling, because she never believed that someone wasn't going to buy. She always believed that they just haven't bought yet. And even saying it now makes me feel like, oh, that's so cheesy, but it's true. It is absolutely true. They haven't bought yet. They will buy. And again, it stems from the belief. People love to buy. The grit.
She also focused on connecting before converting as well, which is what you basically said to begin with. You know, she could have a 15,
Yes.
20-minute conversation without even talking about the product or sale.
Correct. I would also feel like sometimes I had a manager who would say, Connor, you're spending too much time on the phone talking with people. You're not getting to the sale. You're not getting your numbers. You need to have X amount of calls per day. But I would always be a top performer in terms of dollars that I brought into that business. And it was piggybacking off my hospitality days, which was actually about service, building a relationship with someone. And the thing that separates customer service and sales is literally just going for the close. And the reason why people in hospitality and service-based roles in general earn an average wage, and people who are entrepreneurs and business owners and sales professionals, by the way, if you own a business, you are a sales professional, have the ability to earn whatever you want to earn, is your ability to sell. That is the difference. That is one of, I think the main difference why you look at every single successful entrepreneur, irrespective of what they're selling, irrespective of the market, they didn't get there by chance. They got there because they sold and they believed in their product and service. Coke. Everyone knows Coca-Cola. At the time that Coke came out, I don't know if you know, but there were like 1,000 different colas. Why did Coke? Why are we now talking about Coke? Because the chemist who made Coke was exceptionally good at selling it to the public, and that's why we see Coke. In fact, that's why we have Santa Claus in a red outfit, is because Coke created Santa Claus in the red outfit as part of marketing. Anyway, that's a side story. So every single successful entrepreneur stems from sales.
Totally. Now, just by the way, guys, we had no preset where today would go. It was just going to be a conversation, and as it's turned out, the main thing that's come out of this is all about your attitude as a salesperson. What I'd like to do now is open up the floor for questions. So if you have a question for either Cal, Conor, or me, then if you put it into the chat, then Sally will manage those questions. And then the way we'll deal with that is when Sally basically says, okay, so such and such a person has a question, if you could then unmute your mic so that you can actually, so that everybody can hear you personally ask the question. And then whoever the question is for or whatever, then we will answer those questions. I just think it's really interesting that everything has been not about sales skills. It's been about your personal attitude and beliefs about selling, and also being proud of being a salesperson.
That's because everything else is downstream from that. All the skills, the techniques, the methodology, it's all downstream from your attitude. And I think you would agree, David, that that's the same with NLP, that the attitude came first, which was a curiosity in excellence. And then all of the techniques and methodologies and the strategies were downstream of that.
Yeah, so you've got NLP being an attitude, methodology that leaves a trail of techniques, and they're in order of importance. The attitude is the most important bit. Whereas, I think we all know of NLP trainers that just teach the techniques. And that's the wrong way around.
100%. Couldn't agree more with that.
Sally, do we have any questions?
We do. We have a question from Faye, I believe.
Okay. Faye, do you want to unmute your microphone?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi,
Faye.
how are you guys?
We're
Hey,
good.
nice to see you.
Merry Christmas. Hi.
Merry Christmas.
Sorry, I'm in my bed. I'm in my bed in the AC. It's so hot here.
It's hot. You're in Brisbane, right? Queensland's very hot right now.
Yeah. Getting used to this humidity here, but not complaining. I really enjoyed what I think it was more of a pep talk. Like, I needed to hear what you guys were saying. And I especially liked the bit about like reconnecting with previous clients and clients that experienced value from like your services. But here's where I have a follow-up question, and it could be a limiting belief. So maybe call me out on that. Because the work that I do, and maybe many of us do, is around the, personal development and like relief of chronic symptoms. When they have left all of that behind, re-engaging with them to sell them something else feels like it, again, to me, that it's like it contradicts the promise of the original offer and the original work. I don't know. There's some confusion inside my head around that. Can you clarify? You're smiling, Conor.
Oh, we've talked about this recently. We've talked about it recently. That's why I think we're all smiling.
We love forever clients,
I missed that.
we
Not today, and privately we've talked about it several times.
we love forever clients, but we don't love forever codependent clients. And with what you're talking about now, if you've worked with a client in the past and they've achieved, exceptional, alleviated symptomology of whatever it is, and yes, you're 100% correct, Faye. You're not going to ring them up and say, "So what else is wrong with you? Let's see where we go." That would be a mistake in your intention. So one thing that's really important is your intention. So why would you ring that person back? You would ring them back to connect with them and have a conversation to see how their life has been since working with you. And it sounds so easy, and it is. There is nothing hard with what we do. Do the basics right, and it will pay dividends many times over. Your intention, and this is so important actually. Thank you for asking this question, Faye. Because if you went into that phone call thinking, where can I see pain points in this person's life so I can exploit them to sell them something? That, for me, it just muddies the water as to why you're doing it in the first place. So why would I ring you, Faye? I would ring you and say, hey, Faye, how have you been? It's been a while since I saw you at Master Practitioner. How's life been? Oh, you're in Australia now. Incredible. What are you doing in Australia? Blah, blah, blah. Great, great, great. Oh, and then my intention wouldn't be to sell you on that phone call if I hadn't spoken with you for a while. My intention would be to reconnect. And when my intention is different from selling you, it's amazing what actually comes up in the conversation. So you may not ring up that person and have any intention of selling when you shouldn't, but on that conversation, that client of yours says, oh, you know what? My friend has just said that they've got this back pain, and you know what? I've never connected the dots. Maybe I should. In fact, can you call my friend for me? Or can I get my friend to call you? Are you taking on clients in January, Faye? Because I think that they would really do well with your help. And that's how the organic selling takes place. So
Right.
that's how I would address your question.
And that's not to exclude them either, because there may be times where they might want to work on a different context of their life, or they might be working
Absolutely.
towards a new goal. And as you all know, being coaches and trainers yourselves, when you set the bar high, problems will present themselves, because that's an example of the new you, or the new identity, the new person you're becoming. And it requires a new version of you. And as a result, to get there even faster, we just so happen to have a set of magnificent tools that allows those people to get there faster. So that's not to exclude them also working with you again either. But what Conor said was an important distinction. You're not ringing them up going, we worked on spirituality last time. How's your family going? Or how's things going in the context of relationships? That just comes across like the grease back hair, shoulder pads, kind of
Totally.
sleazy salesperson. But it's what we haven't spoken about tonight is the Forever Client Matrix, which is essentially a process of going from the surface level structure down to what we call the core resistance, which, because you're all NLP trained, we can call it what it is. It's a prime concern. There's something that person isn't able to be, do, or have that's wanting them to work with you, whether that be as a student or as a client for coaching. And some of the things that you can go through on those phone calls is how to traverse those different levels, from the surface structure to the things that get stuck in people's throat and they have trouble articulating it, to the stuff that's in their heart that they don't even like to admit to themselves. And this is what comes up in those conversations if you focus on connecting rather than converting, or you focus on connecting first. The converting happens, but it generally happens naturally by itself if you've gotten into that prime concern. If you're able to uncover somebody's prime concern on that call through the questions that you ask, navigating the resistance that comes up in the conversations as you go through with metaphors or reframes or pre-frames, and you're able to discover what that person's not able to be, do, or have, that's propelling them and compelling them to talk to you in the first place, that person will have a mini breakthrough on the phone call with you. And this is where the transactions get turned into transformations. And Conor and I often talk about redesigning the sales paradigm, because we've flipped the triangle upside down. We don't focus so much on the closing or the converting. We focus on the connecting. And when you ask the right questions, you are able to go through those different levels to the things that get stuck into people's. Well, first of all, the stuff that they're willing to admit to everybody. They'll tell their partner, they'll tell the person on the street, they'll tell, I'm going to do this training and it's because I want to be more confident. Yeah. We've heard that before, right? What's the stuff that they're having trouble even verbalizing? And we know that's on the cusp of conscious unconscious, right? The stuff that gets stuck in their throat. And then the stuff that's deeper down, the prime concerns, which is in the deepest unconscious recesses of our mind. And this is where you as NLP coaches and trainers are already so far ahead of every other salesperson because you know how to do that process already.
And none of what you are bringing up can happen like over a text conversation. We actually literally have to pick up the phone, and that's something I know I need to work on. I have some kind of limiting belief or fear of disturbing people if I call them.
This is the thing, right? And Tad used to say this all the time, and David, you probably heard Tad say this before. If you come up with the right pre-frame, you can get away with saying anything after it. Okay.
Yep.
So if you pre-frame the conversation before you come onto the phone call, and there might be a unique detail about that specific person that you're calling. It may be a memory like Conor had of you being in New Zealand. And I remember that master practitioner training and afterwards because you became good friends with Tamika as well. So, the conversation could be, hey, Faye, I just ran into Tamika the other day. I'm back in Yeppoon. I was speaking to Tamika and she's doing these wonderful retreats now and she's organizing all this organic produce for people. And it made me think of you and how close you guys became over that time period. How are you doing?
Yep.
That's how you do it.
And it has to be authentic.
Absolutely. 100%.
Thank you, guys.
My biggest coach is my wife, Amanda. And when I would go through a period where I'd be like, no one's buying. In addition to looking within myself, Mandy would always say, Conor, are you selling or are you helping? No, I'm selling. She says, change it. And I'll go back to seeing how I can help someone. And then bang, they start buying. Like the icky vibe goes away. And people know they're buying from me and they enjoy the whole process. But my intention isn't to just be that, the person who you don't want to be, Faye. So intention is so important. And if your intention is to help them, then the conversation will be different. And here's one takeaway you should all write down, and whoever's trained with me in the past knows this one. But before you ring them, Faye, in your mind's eye, imagine you're meeting a friend face to face. So when you ring them, get into the state of meeting a good friend face to face. And then when you ring them, that energy that goes through that phone will be remarkably different than if you're going, I hope they don't hang up. I hope they don't think I'm selling to them. I hope blah, 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 blah. All that negative self-talk, gone. If you're meeting a friend face to face, even if you're on the phone, imagine you're meeting a friend face to face. It changes that energy, changes your tonality, changes your whole projection on that phone call.
So much. Thank you.
Brilliant.
And Happy New Year, guys, and everyone on the
Happy
call.
New Year, absolutely.
You too, buddy.
Happy New Year. Sally, do we have any other questions?
We do. We have one from Chris Hallett.
Chris. Okay, Chris.
Hello. First of all, thank you very much for putting this on because it's been both a refresher and a kick up the backside for me. So thank you. My question, I guess, follows on from Faye's, and it's about picking up the phone. Would you recommend then? You talked about making phone calls rather than making that first connection through, say, for example, LinkedIn, and just finding. I've got a big network on LinkedIn, so I can actually identify who the people are that I prefer to be helping and working with, and then just find a contact number and then ring them rather than using LinkedIn.
Are they existing customers of yours or just in your network?
They're just in the network.
Well, that's prospecting.
Yeah,
sure. So what's the question?
So would you? So I've got 8,500 connections. Would you start that conversation through LinkedIn or go straight for a phone call?
Do they know that you're a fresh lead? They don't know who you are, or do they know you?
They just know we're connected.
you could do one of two ways. You could ring them, but you'd have to have a why you're ringing them. Similar to what Callum said. The why you're ringing them
Yep.
is really important. So you have to be clear on that.
Okay.
So why would you be ringing them, Chris? Let's ask you this question.
I'll have seen something that they've done on LinkedIn, or previously commented on something in their business, and then I want to find out, how business has gone and what their plans are for 2025. Because the main reason is I'm doing some research around what the business landscape is at the moment.
There you go.
Okay.
So that's what you would do.
Thank you.
Okay.
For the record, Chris, just to jump in as well, we've been experimenting with the whole sell by chat sequence, but the goal is still to get the people on the phone at the end of the critical point. We only do it that way so that we can do it on scale, so that we can talk to more people than maybe individually that we would be able to cover, burning the list and getting through the calls. So, I'm also not opposed to going through that list of 8,000 connections, looking at it, segmenting it in whatever way you deem the most effective. Find businesses that you feel, I think for you, it's IT businesses, isn't it? That they're the people that you've got the most experience with. So I'm sure that you could segment that list into more ideal client type boxes and make sure that they fit that client avatar, and maybe, they have a sales team, for example, or they need one. Often founders, they're great at creating the products, but they're not the best at selling it. So, you might speak to those types of people as well. And then getting them to a point where you've warmed them up slightly on the chat, on the texting or the chat in the LinkedIn chat box, to the point where they understand your expertise, they understand what you're best at, and then move that into hey, can I have 5 minutes of your time? And I'm doing some research, and I've identified you as somebody who would be able to give me the information that I need.
Okay.
Yeah, I think both of you have really made a major point here. And Chris, with your question, it's about prospecting, which comes way before selling or buying. And you can think of prospecting as being the same as advertising. Now, brands such as McDonald's can do price and item advertising, saying, okay, for the next month, you can get a sausage and egg McMuffin for 99p. And people will show up for that. We're not in that market. So the thing we've got to really focus on is the why. And it's not the why for us, it's the why for them. So even though, this event that we've put on, there's no charge to it. It was a free event, and we do a lot of those, and we always work on freemium model as far as that's concerned. Is that we sent you an email, or you saw a social media post that gave you a why for being here. Even though there was no monetary exchange, you were sold. And you were sold on the why. That's why you're here, rather than wherever you are in the world, why you're not in the pub, you're not in bed.
At 10 a.m.
Although Faye obviously said that she was in bed. But that's why you're on this session. Because you had a why. We gave you a why. When you're prospecting, Chris, that's the thing to focus on, is why would somebody want to talk to you? It's the biggest radio station in the world in America, WIIFM. What's in it for me?
Thanks,
Yep. Sally, do we have other questions?
So Leah has a question.
Leah.
Salia.
Salia. Okay.
Sal. Hey, Salia.
Hello. Hi. I just have a question regarding grit and resilience. Hi, Kallum. Hi, Conor. Good to see you guys. Grit and resilience. That's something you mentioned, Conor. Hi, David.
Hi.
You're there in the grid. So grit and resilience. Firstly, like how would you differentiate it, and how does it help when we're going with that selling attitude, as David was saying, the attitude part of it?
Can you ask the question again? Explain the difference between them and then the attitude.
Yeah, like how does it help when we go into sales, like when we're talking to our prospect clients, how does it, intertwine with that? Yeah.
Well, I think in order to hold the right attitude, so if you were not feeling like there was any point in picking up the phone, you wouldn't really have the attitude like, I'm going to pick up the phone and make a difference in someone's life. So it's okay. It's easy to, if you wake up, let's say you're brand new, you're fresh out of the box of your NLP training or your NLP trainers training, and you're like, oh, I'm going to make a big difference in everyone's life. It's easy to get back up again on day one. But the attitude comes in after month 3. And the resilience comes in after month 3, and the grit comes in after month 3. I guess you could say that to even want to get back up is an attitude. To even want to keep going is an attitude. To even want to keep going and find that person whose life you're going to make a difference in is an attitude. After so many people have said, not me today. I guess we could umbrella it all under attitude. To even, like I said, to even want to have resilience is an attitude. And your initial enthusiasm is what gets a lot of people off the starting gate. But what keeps them going is the resilience, the grit, I guess, and their attitude. And grit, remember, is long-term perseverance. Resilience is like, I've got to know, I'm going to get back up again. I've got to know, I'm going to get back up again. So grit is long-term, resilience is short-term, let's say.
When I was a kid, here in the UK and England, there were toys, and there were Weebles, and the company's slogan was "Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down." So the way with a Weeble is you push a Weeble over and it would go doing.
Doing.
So the important thing is to be a Weeble. And my take on resilience is around, a lot of people think of resilience being like, I've got to be strong, I've got to be whatever. My thing around that is about being flexible. Because a tree that's strong like this, when a heavy wind comes in, breaks.
Yep.
Tree that's flexible, the wind is there, and then when the wind is gone, Weeble.
Oh, I'll never forget that. It's going to stay with me. Love that. Love that, Conor. Thank you. And David.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. It's all like in my head now, the Weeble and the tree and the resilience and the attitude. So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Always get so much value from all 3 of you. So thank you, Conor, Kallum,
Thank
and
you for being
David.
here.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Sal. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Sally, do we have any other questions?
No, no other questions at this point.
Okay. Hey, just so we get some feedback, just put a 1 in the chat if this has been valuable for you. As I said, we just went, let's do something between Christmas and New Year, particularly around sales. Because, between Christmas and New Year, it was always, for me, it was always like a bit of a dead spot, so we said, let's put something in, but also let's do something around, as we've said, it is the number one business skill for an entrepreneur is selling. Doesn't matter how good your product is, doesn't matter how good your service is. If you can't sell it, then you haven't got a business. Tad, which is obviously our connection, always used to say to me, it doesn't matter how good you are as a trainer of NLP, if you can't put people into your training room, nobody knows how good you are.
He would say that all the time. He would.
Here's another thing. If this has been useful, valuable to you, and the Performance Partnership Worldwide, we were able to get Kallum and Conor over to the UK to do a training. How many of you would you be interested in that? If you just want to put a 1 in the chat box again, because if there is interest, if there is value in that, then we will do everything that we possibly can to make that happen.
Brilliant. I haven't been to the UK since 2011, I think. I was best man at a wedding.
Here's some really weird synchronicities, but if you believe in esoterics, if you believe in synchronicities, they're not weird at all. When Sally and I lived in Acton, we used to go to a pub called the King's Head, which is the market square of Acton, where Cal at the time used to work and lived.
Yeah.
He served me with my Fuller's ESB. Then I did one of my trainings, the Wizard's Secret trainings, in the Meridian Hotel, Le Meridian, in Piccadilly, when Conor was working there. And we only worked out these connections after we connected in the first place. And I'm going what is going on? But that's the kind of the connection and those kind of things which draws people in. And I think that's the important thing, is what you're doing when you call people, when you do things, what you're doing is you're drawing people in. Whereas quite often when people think about selling, it's too much of a push. It's a attract.
That's a great segue into one of the last mistakes that we're going to talk about tonight, at least, because there is 5 of them. But we'll talk about number 3 now. Number 3, and this is very much aligned with what you just said, with drawing people in, but also with the esoteric understanding that David and Conor we all have, and I'm sure everybody, if they're sitting here, they and they love David's work, they are into energy and into esoteric knowledge as well. And that is turning the energy that's around at this time of year for New Year's Eve, the resolutions that everybody makes. And who's got some New Year's resolutions this year, by the way? If you put yes or Y in the chat, that'd be great.
Julia.
The one thing that prevents people achieving their New Year's resolutions, particularly past January or February, is commitment. And when we can engage with this energy that's around at this time of year and draw people in, like David was talking about, and we can turn those resolutions into commitments. And how do people commit? Well, they enroll into your trainings, they enroll into your coaching programs and packages. Because we know that as soon as they put even $1 down, their certainty level goes up that they're going to achieve that outcome and that resolution.
They're no longer a prospect, they're a customer.
Exactly. So utilize that energy. And Faye spoke earlier about how do I frame the reason for my calling or the why. For many, it could be starting the conversation as, I'm talking to people about their New Year's Eve resolutions and how they can achieve them faster. And you don't even have to close them, like Conor said on that call. You can just give them value of how to turn those resolutions into commitments. Talk to them about the SMART goals or using timeline therapy or doing a swish pattern or parts integration, whatever it may be. But you share that piece of wisdom, knowledge on those phone calls. You help them to make that commitment through their eventual enrollment with you. And that's how you can utilize this energy that's everywhere. Because what will happen, and this is one of those amazing metaphors that Conor likes to tell, he talks about people being jellyfish. If you don't choose a destination, if you don't have goals, if you don't turn those resolutions into commitments, you end up being like a jellyfish. And what happens to jellyfish? Well, they go wherever the wind blows. And unfortunately, sometimes they end up washed up on the beach, on the rocks, or in our case, Antarctica, on the ice shelves. And they don't like being in the cold. So you being the person that's able to turn those resolutions into commitments, and those commitments just so happen to be with you and your company. And that's one of the big mistakes that people don't utilize, is they don't utilize that energy at that particular moment in time, which we're now in. And I'm going to encourage all of you to go out and help those people turn those resolutions into commitments.
Brilliant.
Great point. Good point.
Now is the time.
I actually feel as though in the back of the NLP Trainers Training Manual, I read it once. I think there's a study that was made with gamblers, and when the gambler put money down on the bet, the certainty that they had on them winning actually went up.
It's from a study done by Robert Cialdini around the power of commitment and consistency. In that before a gambler put a bet down on a horse, they weren't sure whether the horse would win or not. But after they put the money down, they were totally certain he was going to win.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
It's all in here.
Yes.
But everything's in here, right? It's all perception. And all perception is projection. So, I just got this thing that when you've got what you offer has so much value for people that if they say no, there is only one reason for that. They're crazy. And you don't want them as a customer anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
That's exactly right. People buy from certain people. It's like convincing your friend to go watch your favorite movie. They say, no, I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch that. Oh, but no, you should watch it because it's got this actor and this actress. and the plot line is amazing, and I've seen the shorts, and it's wonderful. Yeah, but it's a 3 hour movie, and I don't know if I want to spend my whole afternoon watching a movie. Yeah, but you'll keep finding reasons why they should watch your favorite. They should watch your favorite movie. You'll keep finding reasons. You'll think of them from thin air. You don't have them written down before you have that conversation. You'll keep, whoever has more certainty wins. So if you have more certainty that your movie is valuable versus your friend who has more certainty that it's not valuable, whoever has more certainty in that conversation often wins that conversation. Sales is no different. And people change in an instant. A number of times people have told me that they're going to enroll into something and they don't. It's mind-boggling. But on the other flip side of the coin, the number of people who told me that they're not going to enroll and they enroll has happened enough for me to realize that change, and we all know change happens in an instant. Sometimes the motivation to change may take a long time, but change happens in an instant. So hold that in your mind's eye when people say no, because if your reasons for doing it trump their reasons for not doing it, then they're more likely going to be doing your training.
Yeah. So take a no as a not yet.
Correct.
I mean, the thing you just talked about, I love these conversations because it just, there's no route, there's no destination. It's just us hanging out and having a chat. But that exactly happened this Christmas, because I've had my first Christmas with my family in 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And my mum came to stay with me, and she's 90 years old, and falls asleep at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, whatever. But I started showing her movies, and I started out showing her old black and white movies, which were what's called the Ealing comedies. So things like the Lavender Hill Mob, the Man in the White Suit. I could see David's nodding there. He remembers those. And I'm thinking, I want to go to bed now. But then Mum went, what are we going to watch next? So one of my favorite movies is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, with Michael Caine and whatever his name is, Steve Martin. So my mum stayed awake until midnight, to the point where I finally had to go like, okay, Mum, I think it's time for I think it's time to go to bed now. But that's around the why. This is if I've got one takeaway from everything we've talked about, is why. What's the why? That's what will keep the person on the phone. That's what will have the person keep showing up. That's why someone will come back over and over again and create a long-term relationship. Another thing that Tad always used to say to me was, Dave, you'll never make a successful business selling to somebody once. And I don't know if people know this, but Tad actually bought a franchise for a time management training. And people loved it, and people came up to him and said, what can we do next? And there wasn't anything. Then he discovered NLP as a result of seeing Tony Robbins do a fire walk in California. And he thought, blimey, if this guy can get people to take their shoes off and walk on hot coals, then what else could you get them to do? And he realized at that time that Tony was using NLP, which is what got Tad into NLP. And then NLP as practitioner, master practitioner, trainer. There's all these next steps. And that's actually when Tad started to become successful in business. But he was very, very good, as you said, creating the why for people. Why to come back? Why to have a conversation? Why to connect? Why to stay connected? That's the biggest takeaway for me out of our conversation today.
Thanks for having us, David.
Yeah, I loved it.
Great. I love chatting with you guys.
There's always more.
There's always more. Now I'm feeling like I need to get up on the stage.
Yeah.
I played a trick on Tad. I'll share this with you. So on our master practitioner training, I always do a stage show, and Tad always used to do a stage show. We put in the suggestion that if we do this, then you'll feel the undeniable urge to stand up, come to the front of the room, and as soon as you see me do this, you will stand up, come to the room, and you'll do it immediately. And then, people come to the front of the room. We do a stage hypnosis show, not like the Paul McKenna kind of stage hypnosis show, where, we demonstrate the power of the unconscious mind, essentially. And we always remove the suggestion. But there was one guy who absolutely said, I don't want to remove the suggestion. And he came and did trainers training with me and Tad in London. And Tad and I always used to play jokes and pranks on each other all the time. So this guy was there, Tim Brown, that's his name. And he's looking at me and I go, and in the middle of the trainers training, Tim stands up, but when he did it originally, he didn't know that he could use his legs. So he stood up, but he's still with his legs bent, walking up to the stage. And Tad's looking at me going like, what on earth is going on? And I just go like, it's this, Tad. At which point Tad goes, Dave, you're a fucker. But I knew then I was going to get set up in another way all the time with Tad. He's still, he's the reason why we're here.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think we all feel his presence, even though he's not with us physically. It was always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And also massively transformational.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a master for sure.
Yep.
And he made a good, a mean Tadtini. Whenever we went to his house in Vegas, he would always make a dirty Tadtini. And I was not a martini drinker, but I ended up being one when I was in Vegas.
Yes.
Because he made them and they were great.
With lots of olives and the juice.
The dirty, that's made it dirty, yeah.
Yeah. Oh dear, no. No, I couldn't do that.
I learned a lot about belief. Oh, no. I was gonna go on for another hour, but I'm not too sure if we have a time limit here. And if we do, I'm selfish. I would love to come to the UK. Kallum would love to come to the UK. So Connect Coaching would love to come to the UK. So Sally, I saw in my chat thing, I saw a little link to register interest or something. I didn't quite understand or see it before all the chat sequences went up. But was there a link that you put up?
Yeah, there was. I've just re-put it up, so they just need to catch it and fill it in.
Ah, fantastic.
And then I
Brilliant.
can,
So, because
And
Connect
of course-
Coaching would love to get their passport stamped, fill it out because hopefully, David, we can do something.
Yeah, definitely. And that will be, if we do something, that'll be in Nottingham. So for those of you who aren't in the UK, you can come to Nottingham. There is still a Sheriff of Nottingham. There is a Robin Hood. There is a castle. And all of those kind of things. So Frank, I don't know if Frank's still here, but when Frank came over to do coach on trainers training, because he's our master trainer program, he spent the day off. He went to Matlock. He went on a steam train. All of these kind of things. So there's lots of exciting things to do around Nottingham.
All right, awesome. It would be a pleasure.
So thanks for joining us, guys, and making this happen. It wouldn't be the same without you. And obviously, we know it's the 30th of. Is it the 30th? I don't know what day it is. 30th of December.
It's the 30th. Tomorrow's New Year's Eve.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow is New Year's Eve. It's probably very close to New Year's Eve for you guys.
Utilize the energy, guys. Utilize that energy.
And we're going into, from a numerological point of view, we're going into 2025 is a 9-year numerologically. So it has the energy of things stopping. But equally, when things stop, new things start. So ride that wave, talk to people about what they want to stop in 2025 and what they want to start getting going during that period of time. Then, that's utilizing, it's surfing the wave rather than attempting to paddle against it. Mm-hmm. Great opportunities.
Do it.
Yep, just do it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.
Hey, guys. See you.
Guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kallum and Conor.
We finally did one that it was conducive for the UK market.
Yeah.
Nah.
I'm coming out to Australia.
Yes.
Wherever I go, I always cause trouble.
That's we're looking forward to that. Very much so.
Me too.
I love that.